Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Colorado series. Today we're going to be expanding out to the east and the west of the downtown area we laid out in the last episode. I still haven't narrowed down a name for this region and city, so if you have any ideas or suggestions, definitely let me know in the comments. I always have a little bit of trouble with doing the names, so I'd love to hear some feedback from you all. As you can see, we've expanded out the footprint quite a bit in this episode, getting right up to the highway to the west and pushing all the way to the mountain in the east. If you're enjoying this series, make sure to leave a like and a comment letting me know how I'm doing. The engagement really helps to push my videos to new people and keep me in the know on what you all are interested in. Right now, we've got to get started on expanding this warehouse district that's west of the main road that goes into the city. I'm sprinkling in some office blocks as well. A lot of the times you will see office blocks mixed in with warehouses in cities, and they do pair together really nicely, adding a little bit of height to this area. I'm starting out by doing some parking lots. With a city like this, you'll find a lot of parking as most people will be commuting in from other areas and will need somewhere to park their car. It helps to put the parking lights down first so you can get an idea of the rest of the space you have to work with, and it keeps a natural feel. If you try to pack every square inch of the city with buildings, it starts to feel a bit crowded and unrealistic. For American builds, adding lots of service parking really helps to add that extra bit of realism to the city. I'm doing a bit of detailing here for this office. It's right up against the main street and it doesn't fit quite perfectly on this lot, so it helps a lot to add some details surrounding the building to make it sit within its lot much more naturally. From what I've learned, a lot of the detailing process is creating those areas in between the buildings. Space near city centers is a pretty hot commodity and you wouldn't necessarily see open, unused land in places like this. Adding parking lots, alleyways, seating and communal areas, and general street furniture really helps to keep your city feeling alive. So I would urge anyone that wants to up their detailing game to give your buildings a little breathing room, then detail up those spaces in between. You don't always have to go all out with intricate details in each spot as well. Green spaces are becoming an increasingly more sought after quality to modern cities, so just adding some trees in those empty spaces can make a huge difference. I think anyone who's a fan of detailing in city skylines knows what I'm talking about with not underestimating the difference a few oak trees can make for an area. That's definitely some of the things I'm thinking about with this build too. In past series like Angler Creek, the goal was to do 1 or 2 blocks an episode. In this series, I'm trying to create multiple neighborhoods in one episode. So I have to think about what areas I should focus on the most for intricate details. Then in other areas where it's not as important, use more time-effective solutions like adding trees. And you can see a bit of that process here. I like to go in layers. I'm adding some of my larger and medium-sized bushes first, then I go through and add smaller bushes and flower patches. When you take your time and work in layers for these more bushy areas, it really sells that overgrown look. And as I fill in the rest of these areas around the parking lots with more buildings, you can really see how they come to life very quickly. I've got to finish some of these textures for the grassy medians. I'm trying to only fill those in once I've got the road layout figured out for the area because they will change when you add more intersections. And now I'm starting on this west side neighborhood. What I wanted to achieve for this episode is showing a bit of a wealth disparity between the west side and the east side. The west side is nestled into this highway intersection, which will add a bit more noise pollution and lower the land value a bit. By no means is it going to be a poor neighborhood, but I wanted it to be distinct from the east side, which is much more scenic with proximity to the mountains and no highway intersection nearby. We're still thinking very much about that gradient that I talked about in the last episode. I think on the other side of the highway is where I'm really going to start leaning into more single-family housing, but for now, on this side of the highway, we will be continuing with more low-density commercial sprinkled in with some apartment complexes and mixed-use buildings. I'm also sprinkling in parking wherever I can, making sure to add street parking in some areas where I plan to use mixed use, and also making good use of some of our parking roads that we now have in the game. I wanted to give this street a unique and older look from some of the other streets. I went with this dark brick texture, which feels like something you'd see in an older preserved downtown street, and I'll be experimenting a bit with the coloring for the road. I've had to think a lot more about color theory and contrast as I build out these areas. Adding distinct coloring to each street and sidewalk has to be done carefully, as I don't want to create too much contrast between the streets. They need to be distinct while still feeling congruent when the camera is panned out, revealing the entire city. So you may see me going back multiple times and changing certain textures as I build out the city to keep everything feeling nice and harmonious. And here now I'll just be doing a bit of detailing for this highway overpass. I like making the overpasses feel a bit dirty and run down, so this is definitely what I see in real life, and I think it's pretty consistent through most of the US to have rundown overpasses, so we'll be adding a few cracks and stains and some trash props to give this that rundown look. I'm mixing in some of those gravel textures, which I've really been enjoying recently to mix in concrete with grass. I wanted it to look like grass has started growing in the cracks of the pavement and really overtaking this area. So those textures have been super useful for situations like this. At this point in the episode, I'm starting to actually draw out the boundaries of each of these neighborhoods. I like the idea of using these area tools so we can keep track of the total residents and have some concrete defined boundaries. The goal is to do 1 to 2 neighborhoods an episode. The amount of expansion will really just depend on how much detailing I'll be doing in each neighborhood, and also the size of the neighborhood. Next episode, I hope to expand out to the north, creating the northwest side and the northeast side. Also, these neighborhood names are also not set in stone, so if you have any suggestions on what the neighborhood should be called, definitely let me know. I'm really excited to see if anybody has any interesting suggestions on these names. Here we are adding a bit of an apartment complex. So usually all of these buildings would be owned by one person or company. You'll see these a lot in the United States in medium-sized and small cities. These apartments turned out really nice too, and are one of my favorite additions to this neighborhood. It serves to show a bit of the wealth disparity that we touched on as well, as we won't be seeing any of these on the east side. Mainly row house districts and large single-family homes will be over there. Detailing up these is pretty fun. You can add some paths and then mainly just some landscaping, some trees in the in-betweens. You'll have a little parking spot where everybody that lives there can park. You know, from a realistic standpoint, this probably isn't enough parking for all of those apartment complexes, but you know, we'll just have to make do. Somebody might have to go park across the street or something like that. Now we're getting started on the east side that I've talked about so much already. I'm going to try to sell that higher land value look by what types of commercial buildings I place, as well as the types of homes that I place. Instead of opting for apartment complexes, we will be using some nice row homes and some larger single family homes. For the commercial, I will be placing some of the signature assets we got recently, like the grill and the coffee shop. I'm using the UK large and UK medium assets for this neighborhood here. They really sell that rich neighborhood look with these huge homes on large lots with lots of garden space. Most of the UK assets work perfectly as American assets, so I've always been a big fan of this pack, and I think it works great for this area that I'm trying to create here. I'm also using a custom road that I made with Road Builder. I call it the neighborhood road. It's just a 2-lane road that's made a little bit more narrow. The lanes are a little bit more narrow, the sidewalks are a bit more narrow, and it just creates a little bit more of a distinction between the 2-lane roads that you'll find in the city and the 2-lane roads that you'll find in a neighborhood. Here I am now just adding a little bit of extra detail to our main street. This is going to be the last thing that we do before the video ends. What I found on Google Earth in Colorado Springs, which inspired me to do this, was that in some of these areas, you will have half of the sidewalk, which will be this brick texture, and then the other half of the sidewalk is going to be this asphalt. And it just gives a little bit of separation. It makes the street look a little bit less flat whenever you have multiple different textures that are contrasting with each other to create this street that looks just a little bit more visually interesting. That's what I'm doing here. We're also going to go through and add some more planters and more trees on the streets in those planters. And once I'm done with that, I think this details up this road quite nicely. It's looking quite a bit better than it did before, and I'm excited for you guys all to see that. With that though, that is going to conclude the episode for today. So I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you got to the end of the video, thank you so much. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing. I want to say a special thanks to Canyon Tiger and Clovis Grunty for supporting me on Patreon. Thank you so much, guys. And I will see you all in the next episode. Have a good one.